All right, I hope my screen is visible and I'm audible properly. If there's any issue,
Yes,
please
sir.
let me know. Okay, thank you. So today is the 13th session that we are having, and lost my cursor. I found it. So yeah, so basically this is what we are doing right now. We are working on the shooter game genre, and I think we've been doing it for the past 2 or 3 sessions. And we have already learned a lot of things in this. We have set up our scene, we have set up the enemy, we have learned about raycasting, we have learned about exporting, we have learned about the small things that are in general use case as well. And we have learned specific things about uh, first person shooter games that we are creating. So in the last session, we stopped at adding animations to our uh, to the gun, to the weapon. So basically, some effects in the and to our weapon, which is a pistol right now, and we are adding three things basically. One is a muzzle flash effect, and we saw how that is a particle system, what a particle system is, and how we can use Unity's particle pack. And uh, there are a lot of uh, uh, particle systems available in that pack, and how to export that from a different project to your project, and how to import that to your project basically. So we will be using the muzzle flash from there, and something uh, one more thing was there, which was the cartridge ejection thing. And then we'll have an audio. We've already seen, have had a look about audio before. I'll introduce you to one more function on audio, and then we'll have a small detour to Probuilder, which is basically just to introduce NavMesh. Basically, NavMesh is an AI pathfinder for your games in Unity. So how to use NavMesh, a very basic start. There's a lot more than what we'll discuss to NavMesh, but we'll discuss some basics, and then we'll move on to basically finishing our game. We'll add some AI to the enemy itself, and then we'll add some animations to the enemy. So this is the agenda. The Pro Builder detour also is not really a big thing. We'll just spend like 5-10 minutes building a small environment, and we'll have a look at very basic Pro Builder tools. If you've already seen the videos that I shared initially with you, I think I shared a few resources with for Pro Builder. If you've already gone through those, then this would be very straightforward for you. We'll just basically set up a scene in which we can actually learn to implement NavMesh. We'll see the different components of NavMesh, standard components. Obviously, there's a lot more to that, and we'll discuss that when we come to it. So this is there, and then let's move to our game. So this is where we left off last time. We have a player setup, we have a level setup, we have an enemy, and we basically set this crosshair up last time, which you can see in the game window, which is below. Uh, and then uh, what we did last time was basically import some things, like which was this effect example. This is we exported from our particle pack, which was a different project that we created. And then we exported weapon effects here. And this is where we had left off last time. We had the muzzle flash and the cartridge eject effect. And this is what we'll be using today. And we'll start with the muzzle flash. I think we already added it. Yeah, so muzzle flash we've already added. If you remember. we were going in script and we had started writing how to control that. So this is our muzzle flash that we've added. And now we'll basically see how we control it using script. So in our script, which was the shoot script, making a bit of view. So our shoot script was on the player capsule. This thing, this is what we are using to add the effects, and this is where we have left off. We had left off. We were creating this particle system muzzle flash. And we created this, and then next what we want to do is basically uh, in our start function, we called muzzle flash top. So what this is basically doing is whenever we start the game, uh, the animation, because you saw it's a looping animation. So or the particle system, that's a looping particle system. So we'll stop it, and then we'll write script. We'll write a coroutine basically to basically just call it whenever we actually shoot, whenever we actually fire. So for that, let us create a coroutine. I hope you remember coroutines and what they are and what their uses are. So let's call it weapon effects. In this, we'll also call or basically use the cartridge bullet casing thing as well, cartridge eject. So that's why I'm calling it weapon effects and not muzzle flash to make it more general. This same coroutine will be used for both those things. So what we want to do is whenever this coroutine is called, first we want to do muzzle flash dot play. Then we will do yield return. If you remember, we have to basically give some time for the coroutine to execute. So here what we want to do is use a new function. We have seen this wait for seconds before. Here we'll use end of frame. So we'll wait for the end of frame. Basically, this will allow the complete weapon effects, like the complete weapon effects to take place. Whenever this frame ends, this will return to the uh, return execution. And then basically after that, muzzle flash dot stop again, so that it only plays once. And where do we want to call it? We want to call it somewhere here. So this is the place where we are basically checking if we are firing. This is where we are firing either like just whatever happens. This is where it will fire. If we click and if this condition is met, it will fire. We can't put it out there because then this on shoot is being called every time we click. But this condition is basically checking the rate of fire, if you remember. So we'll call it here. This and basically just start coroutine and effects. And that's it for our muzzle flash. Let's see if that's working. We didn't assign any variable to the muzzle flash. Let's go ahead and do that. We made it a public variable, the muzzle flash particle system. We just need to assign this dash. So now you see it's only whenever I'm pressing, that is only when it's firing. So cool. And next we'll set up audio because it's sound. We don't have any sound setup, so let's do that next. For that, basically all we'll do is again in the script itself, we will create a new variable for basically an audio source. If you remember, this is where it when this is where any clip that you have would play from. And then let's also create an audio clip. We can just use the uh, clip directly. We can attach the clip directly to the audio source. How do we do that? Is basically we on this we'll have an audio source. So we can basically attach the clip directly here. But what we can actually eventually what we would want is basically a weapon system where we might need to change weapons from a pistol to an assault rifle or a sniper, and those sounds might be different. So for that reason, we'll use another this kind of a setup where basically we'll create a pistol uh, clip, and we'll use this, and this I think we'll have to make public so that we are able to access this. And for the audio source, we can just get the component here. So I think you understand this by now. Or because it's on the same script, we'll just doing get component audio source and we'll get it in the audio source. And again, we can use a coroutine for this as well. But right now, to make it straightforward, we'll just play it here. And basically, that's going to be uh, this thing, a new function called play one shot. Play one shot. And in this, basically, we provide the clip that we want to play. So we have right now pistol audio clip. So this is basically how you can set up based on what kind of gun you have. You can just play one shot and just add the clip there and then. So this is doing the same thing that a coroutine would do or another script would do just in one line. And all we have to do one more thing is basically add our clip here. So this is our clip that we imported. And let's see if this works. So it's working. Uh, However, let's see why it is not coming. Okay. Okay, so this was audio. And next, again, what we just check once why this thing is not working. Enemy dead thing. Enemy zombie should be destroyed because whenever it goes below 0, it is getting destroyed. Great. So yeah, so it's working. Next, what we want is basically to add the uh, this cartridge eject effect, and this again we'll add to our uh, gun here. And this is not a looping animation, so we'll have to take it. We'll basically set it up over here near the ejection chamber, and looks great, I think already. I think if we can change the angle a bit, that might look better. It's a bit too far. Yeah, so if you can see in the game view, this looks Nice. So now all we need to do is basically just using the same thing that we did uh, for the muzzle flash. We basically create a public variable again of particle system and name this one cartridge eject. And same thing here we need to do cartridge eject dot stop, and here we play it, here we stop it. So that's all we need to do to set up the same thing. Uh, let's cartridge effect here. So you see, basically all the three things that we wanted to set up in effects are set up. We are having a muzzle flash. We are having a great audio, and we are able to see the cartridge ejected every time we shoot. So this is basic setup for our player. Uh, I hope there are no questions till now. And after that, next we want to move on to uh, nav mesh. So for that, what I've done is basically, just to give you a concept brief on what nav mesh will help us do, is basically it will allow us to code some things for the enemy or any uh, either playing non-playing characters. Basically, either they're engaging non-playing characters or non-engaging non-playing characters. So basically, non-playing characters are bots in a sense in your environments. And there are two kinds of non-playing characters. One non-playing characters are basically crowd that you see. So they can be simulated traffic or simulated people who are just sitting out of range from you. You can't interact with them. Basically, even if you go up to them, you try to shoot them, do whatever, you will not be able to do anything. You will not be able to interact with them anyway. If it's a shooter game, you'll not be able to shoot them. If it's a uh, cre- world exploration game, you'll not be able to talk to them. So some stuff like that. So those basically are non-engaging NPCs. You won't be able to engage with them. And then there are engaging NPCs, which are non-playable characters, which are basically engaging with you. So your enemies in the environment or some helpers you in the environment which come up to you and give you hints. So those are basically your non-playing characters which are engaging. So now for specifically for uh, uh, these kinds of things, one of the most important requirements is to set up movement in the environment for them. So for doing that, basically Unity provides something called as a nav mesh, which is one of the tools that is available under Windows here, Window AI navigation. So when we go, we see this kind of a window and we'll see what all this thing means. In just a minute, we'll see what these things are. So basically what it provides us is basically different kinds of agents. They can be humanoid agents or whatever you want to set up, robotic agents, just random blobs, whatever basically you set up, you'll be able to provide them navigation on the floor. And this is one of the use cases of NavMesh. There's one more use case I'll talk about, uh, which is similar to this itself, basically because NavMesh, the whole concept of NavMesh is to provide navigation for characters inside the scene. So this is the general concept and why it is important for setting up enemies, because this intertwined with animations is how basically you set up the complete enemy AI system. So a very simple probabilistic or even just state machine based AI can be set up using just these two things. One is animation and one is navmesh. So right now we'll start with navmesh and then we'll move on to animation as well. And then we'll see how a state machine based AI can be set up. State machine based AI basically means that you have several different states, and based on some conditions, the agent will move among those states. And then there's a next step of AI, which is probabilistic state machine based AI, where basically even the inventor or the creator, basically you, also would not know what the AI would do. It is not actually an AI, but in essence, it is trying to simulate the effect of an AI. And why is Navmesh under AI here? Is basically if you have had a course on AI till now, you must have had some algorithms like A star, AO star, pathfinding algorithms. So pathfinding algorithms are necessarily a part of AI, and that is what NavMesh is doing, is basically finding the most optimal path between any 2 points, and those 2 points for the NavMesh is basically the point, the target that you set up, and the agent that you set up. So we'll move to that. So for this, initially what I would do is basically I have created a different scene, this one, and I was just started creating this thing where this is where this is something that we'll create as a test bed. So, and this is what we'll start with. And this basically will take us 5-10 minutes to set up in Probuilder, and that is the detour of Probuilder that I was talking about. So let's first start with a bit of Probuilder. And how do we start with that? Probuilder is available to you in the package manager. So go to package manager and search for Probuilder, and inside the Unity registry, Probuilder, and basically just install it. There are some samples if you want to check it out, uh, which I have not imported, but if you want, you can. So once you install it, you will get an install button here instead of, like, I'm getting removed right now, but when you first open it, you will get an install button here. And once you install it, you can go to Tools and Probuilder and open the Probuilder window. So you will get a window not like this, you will get a window like this first. So there are some settings that you can change in this. So I hope this is visible to you. Basically, there is modes that you can change here. So there are two modes: use icon mode or use text mode. So icon mode is more uh, visual, so I use that. But uh, for those of you who do not know things, you can start with this. It's more obvious as well. And then basically that's all that is here. And we can dock this window here to use. And let's go to icon mode. So there are a few things that we'll explore today. This smaller window would be enough. We'll need some space here. So I will move these things out of our way. Some space here. So this is basically once you open Probuilder, in addition to your initial navigation menu, which was your tools, move, uh, rotate, rect on all the scale tools, you will also get this additional window, which is basically Probuilder's tool to help you select either the complete object, vertex, edges, or faces. So we'll see how to use these as well. So let's start by creating some some tools. Like, let's see what these tools are. We'll only explore a few tools. More you can explore on your own. So the first one is basically new shapes, which is similar to when we create game 3D objects, this thing. And we also have this tool, same tool over here as well. So when I go here, I can also do Probuilder, cube, stair, curved stair. And this thing is same as what I get here. I'm not sure if there's a difference between what you get here and what you get there. Like, I think you're able to make more changes here. So let's start with a ground. And for that, we'll basically make a plane. So this shape is a plane. And where do we want our pivot to be? Do we want it to be at center or do we want to be at first corner? So let's for now keep it at center and let's just build it. What happened? For some reason I'm not able to build it. Okay, I think I was just to keep this as reference, we'll build it alongside here. Is it not letting me build a plane? Could be because I've already built this. I'm not able to build same things anywhere. Like, I'm not able to start building anywhere else. So, but when I guess I'll just test it out in a new environment. Same thing for here as well. I must be doing something wrong, but let me just go to this one only in that case. And here at least I'm able to build it on top of it. So let's do that. I want to build a plane which is similar to this one. So let me just start here and build this thing first. So I think this much would be enough. So about 25 cross 25. If you can see here, this is where basically it's telling you the size. So I'll build a plane of around X and Z direction of, I'll doing the positive and positive. So positive around 25 and around 25. So both of them are around 25 now. So there I have it, my plane. And now I am able to, I should be able to build things. Let's bring it to 0. So if you go have a closer look, you'll see that some things like there's a marking here which defines 1 meter distance. So basically each block is of 1 meter here. So this is basically how I set up my plane. And then some other basic tools like setting up a cube is basically you set up cube whatever however you want. And once you leave this, you can basically extrude it. You can build the height. So basically first step is you build the base and then you build the height. So let's build a cube here and similar. I'm trying to build it similar to that environment because I'll move on to that one after this or use this if this thing builds properly. So now I have two cubes set up, and let's see one more cube. Let me build a smaller one this time somewhere here. And I want it to be of a similar height to the ones already built, approximately. So this thing, and then we have a thing called for stairs. So we can build stairs around for this cube. And then once you are done building it, you do get some options. If I close and you see that this thing is not perfect, so I can align it more properly using these tools. I can change the size. I can change the step size as well. Let's make it 20, and 20 seems a bit too much. Let's make it 15. If it's going to be 20, we can extend it a bit. This seems okay, and then I can just press anywhere, press enter, I think, or just start building something else. If I want, there are some shapes that I've not used, but also interesting. This is an arc. So first step is always build the base and then come up. So this is an interesting shape that you can use. Then there's an interesting, so I'm just building this. I don't really need to use this. And then once I've built this, I can actually press shift and build more of it. So I can just press shift and build more. So I don't need the arch. There's also another shape that is there, which is a door shape. So this also pretty interesting. Then we have a pipe shape in case needed anywhere. So this all is there. Then we have a prism shape, which we will be using. So let me set it up around here somewhere. So move it here for now. So yeah, so this was basically basic setup with shapes. There's one more thing that I wanted to show before I move on to the next thing is basically this thing, this tool, which is basically a polygon shape tool, and I can create a polygon shape that I want. So let's say I wanted to create a plane not that way and this way. I could have done it like this. So, and then in this also I can give it some height. Once I've set up the base, I can give it a height. So basically created a kind of a cube. So why is this interesting? Is basically it helps us create interesting shapes that if I have a reference image, I can add to the back of my scene. And this is how 3D modeling generally is done. Then I can create some interesting shapes here. And then I can adjust the height, adjust the vertices that I've created. That's all. And then press enter, and this will be final. So I don't really need these right now as well. So just as an extra thing that I wanted to show you. And next, we look at these tools. So now what I want to do is, if you see the scene that I have set up, is basically we have this kind of a ledge or a bridge kind of a thing where we can go under. So that is what we will try to create here as well. So for creating that, we can basically obviously create a new cube from here and come out here and do that. But there's a better way of using this cube itself and extruding from it. So this is how 3D modeling generally is done. If you get an interest in this, you should explore it. So there are three tools that are available to me. So I'll use the tool for face selection. Face selection is basically I can select the face. Vertex edge selection is I can select the edges of this. And then vertex selection is then I can select the edge, the vertex anywhere. So let's say I've not selected anything and then I'm on vertex selection. So if I click here, I'll be able to select one vertex. Then by clicking control, I'll be able to select more vertices. And what happens is basically if I want to increase this or decrease this, this is how I can do. And if I just to choose two vertices, then I'll be able to do something like this, right? So let me go back. So this is where I was. And then similarly for edge, basically I'll be able to move this. Either move if I'm not pressing any button, then I'll be able to move the edge, vertex or face. Similarly for face also, if I'm not touching anything, I'll be able to move the face completely. If I press shift, um, however, I basically create a new face or a new vertex out of that, or a new edge, whatever my selection mode is, and then basically extrude from there. So this is like you can see the only the face is now changing. I still have the uh, setup that I had initially. So one, and there are again multiple ways of creating this, but this is one way that I could do it is basically to go here and select this edge. I don't think I'll be able to do it this way anyway. So let me just go back. I think this is understood. And a little bit more. I think yeah. So what I want to do is basically create something uh, like a half of it outside. So what I'll do is basically change this, and now I'm pressing shift. So I'm changing how much of the face that I want to use. So this much maybe, and then use the move button to change it here. And then again, maybe shorten it a bit more and move this here. And then basically I can use the shift tool to bring it out. And I think that much is enough. And now for uh, making a wall uh, here, this side, I will again use this tool, make, sorry, make it a bit short. So when I'm doing this, I'm pressing shift. If I don't press shift, this is what will happen. It will rescale the original setting. If I press shift, it will create a new face for me. And move this face here and shift and extrude. So this is something that I want. And basically if I want, I can complete this whole thing from down here, I can select this face, and now I can select multiple faces as well if I want, but this thing is whole one thing. And if I select this, then I'll have to shorten it a bit because I do want to create a gap there. So I can kind of create that bridge thing, so to speak. So I have this gap kind of thing. And similarly here also I can just complete this. So this is set up. And now basically if you see this whole, like if I select it as an object, then this whole is one object. It's one cube. So I've been able to create this whole thing as one object. And next, basically, I can set up my prism. And similarly for my this thing prism shape, what I want to do is basically, let's say I want to make it uh, stand around this thing. And let me first just extrude this a bit more on one of these sides. This much looks fine. And then selecting this as object, rotating. So basically what I'm doing is reducing the incline at one side um, and making it inclined from only one side. And then I will select this as object and align it with this thing. And obviously I can scale the object, or I can just um, scale the object like this. This here. And then going back to selecting it as an object. So this is one thing that I don't know if I've told you till now or not. If I press V, I'm able to select different edges, different pivot points from the object, and I'm able to attach it to a different object by just moving it. So pressing V on the keyboard helps me to select different pivot points for moving the object around. And then going back again, uh, select the face. I want to incline it a bit more, so just want the so that's looking better, I guess. Now, one last thing that I can do is basically select the faces here, and if I want to extend my plane, press Shift and extend it. Similarly for the other sides as well. This is how I can extend my single plane to be of a much bigger size. So set up the environment similar to what we wanted. And you can see basically there are only one is plane, then this whole cube has been able to set up this whole thing. Prism was basically, we've changed it according to our needs, and then we've used one stair. So next thing that we can actually do here is basically something that's a material editor. So you can create a material and apply it to all the different things here. So you can have a like I have a Probuilder default material that is provided in the Probuilder assets. Uh, Let me just, in any case, create a new materials folder. Create folder. I think I already have it. No, I don't have it. Materials. Let me just call it object yellow. Let's keep our objects yellow. So somewhere around this, and so this is one way that we can apply the materials. And let's create a material for the ground as well. Ground black. And the another way is how we usually do, like this, just dragging and dropping. But this way, basically, you could apply material to specific phases as well. So like if I want to apply material to just this one, and let me bring black here. So then the material is applied specifically to this face only. And it already had yellow, so that's why it's looking weird. But I can remove the, oh, sorry, I can, is it? Mesh number. If I want, I can remove the yellow one. Oh, sorry. I think I made a mistake somewhere. Yeah. So basically, if we want to apply to a specific face, we can do it something like this. I think this also would work if I take it to a, if I select a specific face, like I select this face and I take it there, then I'll be able to apply it there. But if I put it anywhere else, it won't work. It will apply to the whole object. So let me just go back to what it was. Yeah. So for now, let's keep it like this. So basic scene we set up like this. Uh, Obviously, you can explore a lot more on your own. Next, what we want to do is basically, I'll close Probuilder for now. So just a little bit on Probuilder and how to use some of the tools. I hope this pushes you in the direction of actually using it out. It's a very interesting tool. And next, what we want to do is basically create a agent or basically a non-playing character that we talked about. And for that, I'll just use a capsule, and it's a bit big. So let's change the scale. So this will be our player in a sense, or let's just call it agent. And we would want one small sphere. Let's give this agent also some color to make it more visual. Agent, let's give it green. And then finally we have a small sphere object, which would be scale 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. This will basically act as a target for where the player has to move. So, and give it a material as well. Target red, red. We give it emission as you won't be able to see. Doesn't matter. So target red on the target. So yeah, so now what we want is basically this agent should move to this target. And finally, let's see how NavMesh works. So basically this environment, I'll use what we just created. I don't know if it will work properly because I didn't use anything with scale. I just randomly created it, but hopefully it should work. Quite the environment has been created quite big. So let's see. So basically what we'll do next is let's create a parent for this and give it the name of env. And now what we want is basically to declare this whole env as navigation static. So either we can do it here or we go to navigation and object and select the objects that we have and we define it here. So it's two ways of doing it, either from the inspector window. So defining, and we can basically make everything all the static, not just navigation static, because in a lot more ways than just navigation, this whole static, the environment is going to be static. So for either rendering stuff or for occlusion or for lighting or for reflection, basically it should be static. So there are different kinds of static that you use. But for at least specifically for navigation, we can have navigation static. So if I click it here, you see that it will update here. It has not updated for some reason. Okay, these have updated. So navigation static. So this basically is just a holder. That's why it doesn't matter. But the mesh, all the mesh renderers have updated to static, to navigation static. So now what we do next is basically we just had to do this for the first word thing. And next basically we go to bake. And this is a agent that is set up with some default values. So this we will come to next, but all you need to do is go to bake and click on bake. So this, what it does is basically gives you a view of the movable parts in your scene. So this blue uh, he kind of thing that you see is basically everything that is movable in the scene. So how do we actually explore this? We'll start with, we should have actually started with a smaller thing, but now we have created this. Let's just start with this, or we can quickly first explore a smaller version. So, oh, I made a mistake. I put the agent inside the environment, which is not required. And agent does not need to be static because the agent will be moving. So I'll quickly do one thing is I'll create a quick environment with just a plane and a small cube. This cube will be on top of it. So this is basically our object. This is our ground, and then move the agent and the target. So now what we want is basically to see how the agent will move around in this scene. So for this specific thing, where is my target? So there's the target. So for what I want to do is basically, I'll bake a nav mesh for this very simple scene and eventually move on to the complex scene and then understand all those complex details. So I'll clear this one and then uh, target and sorry, not target, plane and cube, and make this navigation static and then bake. For some reason, my cube should have been, I think something's wrong with the step height probably. 0.35 is this. Yeah, so this is how it should have been in the first place. I played around with the settings a bit before, that is why it was a bit messy. So basically what this shows us is that the bake has basically created some things based on these settings, based on the settings that I'm giving for the agent. I'm giving a radius, I'm giving a height, and we'll explore it more properly soon. So based on this, what it is telling me is how what areas are movable. Now let's quickly write a small script to actually move the player around. So for that, I'll write a script called agent movement. Not agent movement because I'll use it maybe for enemy A. I'll write the script as test nav and let's just call it agent test nav. So in this script, one thing that we'll first do is include the Unity Engine AI namespace and over this. Here we want two things. One is a public transform of the target. So where do we have to move to is the first thing that we want, or let's call it move target. And one we would want access to a nav mesh agent, which we'll just talk about. Agent, and then we have a start where basically navmesh would get component navmesh. So this navmesh agent will be attached to this agent. We'll just see what that is. And in the update, all we need to do is navmesh agent dot destination. So we can define the destination of this to be the transforms target's position. So I hope this script is clear. We included the AI namespace, Unity Engine.ai namespace. We defined the public transform mover target. So this target is where basically we want our player to move or the agent to move. Then we defined a navmesh agent. We'll just see what this is. This navmesh agent component will be attached to the same game object that this script will be attached to, which is the agent. So that's why we are able to get the navmesh agent like this. And then we are basically in the update, what we are doing is using this variable that we create as a destination function. And in this destination, basically what we are giving to the destination as the target that we define in the position of that target. So going back here, I can attach this script to my player the agent, attaching this here, and I will also attach a nav mesh agent that we saw. So this is some things that are defined for the agent, like radius, height, all those things that we want to define. So now if I just press play and I get access to my target, I didn't actually define the target here in my agent. So quickly doing that. So now my player will move around in the scene and try to follow the player. And if you see, it's basically trying to avoid the cube obstacle and trying to come back after it. To see it more clearly, let me place a few more of these so that we can see it more clearly. And we'll have to bake again. So if you see, this does not update automatically, although there are ways to create it dynamically. So now the movement part, uh, let me make it so that it can move between those places as well. So it can move from here, make it more obvious. It can't move between here. So now let's see how this works. And my target, if I move it here, it's taking the big route. So it will always try to find the shortest path and try to get as close as it possibly can. If it's within the actual distance. So we have defined, there's a stopping distance that we defined. Right now it's 0. If I define it as, let's say 2, and then I move my target here, so it will stop at a distance of 2 from the target. So this is the very basics of it. And I think we are up on time for today. So we'll continue from here in the next session. If there are any doubts, we can have them. I'll update the code, what we have done till now, in the GitHub repo.